Hello everyone, and welcome to my special seasonal episode. As some of you already know, I'm a bit into the science fiction and fantasy genres. I am a very avid fan of anything I get into, including tokusatsu, such as Godzilla, Kamen Rider, Ultraman, and the like. But also I really love Star Wars, the original trilogy. And I also really like any really good fantasy film, like the original Conan, Legend, things like that. But something that has been touched on a bit as well, but has not been implied implicitly how much I'm into it, I am a horror movie fan. You want to know how much of a horror movie fan I am? Well, watch this. That's right. Most, if not all, that you see before you, all the way down to here, is my horror movie collection. I have quite a little collection going on here. Now I have to try and put them all back. But for the sake of Halloween, and since I've not done anything like this before, I figured it's time to do something to help you, the fans, decide whether or not I'm a good enough reviewer. I shall give you my top 20 favorite horror films. First off is number 20. Right here. Plan 9 from Outer Space. This is a movie I generally watch when I want to have a good laugh. It's science fiction horror with undead corpses being reanimated by science fiction aliens of the and bringing them back to terrorize humans. Ergo, a horror film. However, it's made by what is considered comically to be the worst director of all time, Ed Wood, and also I might add that my DVD is a special version which has commentary by Mike Nelson. And yeah, it comes with color, but who really needs color?
You see? You're stupid minds! Stupid!
Exactly. So, moving on. Number 19. Night of the Living Dead, right up here. Again, this one also has a special of having Mike Nelson commentary in it, as well as a color version. Both of them aren't necessary, but once in a while it's amusing to listen to what Mike has to say about the movie. Some of it is fact, some of it is just him flubbing around and having fun. All around, good show. Night of the Living Dead itself is kinda slow-paced at times, and just can kinda dawdle when it feels like doing so. So it's not the greatest aged film, but for its time being the 1960s, it was not very bad. So, mixed bag, if you will. Number 18. Friday the 13th, right over here, ladies and gentlemen. Technically, I have both the theatrical and the uncut versions. There's not too much extra for the uncut versions, there's just a couple seconds of extra kill footage. Like you get to see the arrow twist and turn a little bit more inside Kevin Bacon's neck. The fashions are horrifyingly 80s, while trying to keep themselves undated, they dated themselves even more in other places. The film built heavily upon some of the ideas behind the Halloween first movie, wherein there has to be a previous evil to base off what's going to happen next. And that should have happened in the history of whatever location they're going to be at. Halloween, it was Hatfield, Illinois. In Friday the 13th, it was the Camp Crystal Lake campsite. With makeup effects by Tom Savini, the film actually did pretty well and is not the strongest film per se, but it is a very good slasher, and if you have the interest for a beginner slasher film, this is probably where you want to start. Number 17. Nightmare on Elm Street Part 1 up here. Nightmare on Elm Street is a very interesting creation from Wes Craven, the man who also gave us the Scream films. The Freddy Krueger, the man in the dirty derby hat, is actually based after a man that scared him as a child. I believe the last name Krueger was also taken from a bully he had when he was in grade school. So, actually Freddy Krueger is a combination of all kinds of things that scared Wes Craven himself as a young child. The symbolic glove as well as the green and red striped shirt all just add to the eerie creepiness of this character. But despite that, the first one was a fairly decent film, and I even had a guest cameo from a Sam Raimi film better known as Evil Dead. Beyond that, there are many things that could be easily said that have been taken from this, like the T-1000 walk through the bars when Freddy Krueger did it first in the early 80s here. This is also the film that would put New Line Cinema on the map, and New Line is still alive today, although I think it has been bought out by a bigger company. Which one, I'm not sure, but as long as New Line's allowed to do what they want to do, I don't see much problem being bought out. It just needs to have a bigger backing now. Number 16. Resident Evil. Now, I'm a fan of the games first. I will say that there are some flaws in said games as well here and there. I have seen but not played the GameCube games. I really want to get to them because we have a Wii downstairs. I can play them if we have a controller, which we don't yet either. All that being said, the first Resident Evil film was actually really good. It stood on its own, could be considered as a prequel to the Resident Evil series, and was actually very well acted and very well thought out. The only problem with this seems to be that the sequels want to take canon characters and make them into a bunch of know-nothing screw-ups and just diss the entire franchise from far. If the people in Japan had to control the movies like they should, because they're the ones that create these games, then they'd be a whole lot better. But considering it on its own, the first Resident Evil film is pretty good. Number 15. Critters. Yes, this is obviously another 80s flick. It's a little cute creature, but it has rows of razor-sharp teeth, and will probably eat a human corpse down to the bones in no time. And yes, the first film in particular was really cheap, kind of looking, but all in all, it was very original, had some very good ideas, some rockin' 80s music, and I have to say the bounty hunters, who are potentially supposed to be the heroes of the film, are actually very comical and also very self-destructive. Number 14. Halloween 4. Now, here's the thing about Halloween. Halloween 2 was not the best, but it was still decent. Number 3 is a clincher. It was a horrible story. After the horrible Halloween 3, it was pretty much considered that the franchise might be dead. John Carpenter had no real interest in continuing the series any further. So it felt, and also seeing the absolute failure that number 3 was, the producer also felt like it was time to stop it for a bit. But then the producer got the idea in his head. If we bring it back to the bare bones where we need it to be, a girl, couple girls, children, trying to survive and keep away from the man known as the Boogeyman, maybe we could go back and do something good with it again. starts the series kind of fresh, but also remember its roots and that it has a past already. That is where number 4 comes in, ladies and gentlemen. The writer for number 4 was a huge fan and even guest appears as a black cop in the background. And he knew that when he had to write this story, he had to write in the fact that these people have experienced and survived a night of terror with Michael Myers before. And he knew that they would know to try and watch themselves a bit closer, make sure that Michael doesn't sneak in the obvious ways. Number 13. Kolchak the Night Stalker / Kolchak the Night Strangler. These are two made-for-television movies before Kolchak the Night Stalker took off as its own series back in the 70s. These are low-budget horror films, but I might add that these are some of the best-produced horror films made for TV that I have ever seen. There are crazy stunts that even to this day I'm not entirely sure how they did it without killing somebody. This is an excellently done series, and you can see the evident traits finally being brought forth in the second one, The Night Strangler, which permanently boasted that the series should be made and was eventually made. Matter of fact, even as the series was going on its own, they actually made at least one, if not two more made-for-TV movies for Kolchak. So he went on pretty well for the 1970s, and it's still a very good series if you can ever find it anywhere. Number 12. Sunglare. Lost Boys. Lost Boys is a horribly, almost to the point of cheesy 80s flick. It is so aged so much. You can tell it's aged. The hair bands. I will also add that they have hot 80s shits. Besides that, we also have a couple of power ballads for this film, which at least they timed them at the right time to be used in a particular way. The big thing is that Corey Feldman and Corey Haim both starred in this film. Both of them went on to be popular, and to be honest, both Coreys are what kind of carry this movie a little bit. Especially Feldman, he's a badass in this one. The vampire effects are actually pretty good for their time. Admittedly, this is long before Buffy the Vampire Slayer's television debut, so you have to give it some reflection on that. And also, thank God it's not freaking Twilight. Either way, good 80s vampire flick, worth the watch. And number 11, Dawn of the Dead. Dawn of the Dead is an excellent film, made also in the 1970s. This was Romero's second zombie flick and was actually co-produced with one of his Italian buddies, but I digress. This 1970s flick was a step beyond anything that had been made at the time, and it's still a very solid film. It still has some sort of detachment, like it's almost too clean of a film, maybe, perhaps? I'm not sure, but despite that, it's still a pretty solid film and a pretty solid allegory. So that's all for this time. Thanks for tuning in for Top 20 here. Turn the next time where you finally get my Top 10.